Hello, we're here and it's Christmas. So, last week I visited the wonderful city of Dublin. I went with a group of friends and it was really nice. We went for the whole week. So we did eat out a lot and we did drink out a lot and we did lots and lots of attractions and museums and sightseeing, and I'm really glad we did because we had a great time. And also, I think it's safe to say that last week in Dublin I had some of the best food and drink I have ever eaten in my whole life. I feel like I got a really good overview of Dublin, and you know, now I can tell you guys what's good to do and what things are a little bit overrated. There are some things that are a bit overrated. Monday was the day that we decided to do the Guinness Storehouse, which is arguably the biggest attraction there is. It was really good. So I think I will double check prices, but I think it was €35 per person. There was about 5 floors of sort of things to see, exhibitions. The tour was self-guided, so you just kind of wandered around on your own. There was arrows to follow on the floor and that kind of thing. There was a room that was a bit of a mystery to begin with because we queued up outside this room and we weren't really sure what to expect. So it was a big sort of white room with not very much in it except 4 plinths that had like water vapour coming out of them. I won't give too much away, but there was a sort of tour guide in there and we had to smell the different elements of Guinness and what made Guinness. And it was strange, and I think at that point as well we were supposed to have like a tasting at different stages of the brewing, I think. But unfortunately, because of COVID, we were told that couldn't go ahead. And then at the end of the tour, we had a free ticket for the Gravity Bar, which, if you don't know what that is the bar right at the top of the factory. And the walls are completely made of glass. So you have a 360-degree panoramic view of Dublin. We timed it really well as well. So we got to the bar about 4 p.m. and that was just as the sun was setting. So we got to see this beautiful view of the sun setting over the city. I can't say that we enjoyed the Guinness because Guinness is a weird one. It's a weird taste. I don't know. You either like it or you hate it, and I don't think we liked it. So the next thing we visited was the Jameson Whiskey Museum, which was pretty fantastic. We originally weren't going to visit it because we'd done the Guinness Storehouse and we kind of thought, well, we've done one alcohol kind of tour, they must all be the same. So the tour was €25 per person, and similar to the Guinness Storehouse, we got like a drinks voucher included in the price, and the signature cocktail was Jameson whiskey with ginger beer and lime. And that ended up being like the favourite drink of the holiday. None of us would ever have thought to order that, I think, ever. But the fact that that's what we were given as the free cocktail meant that we kind of had it and we drank it, and it ended up being really delicious. We all came to the conclusion that the Jameson Museum absolutely blew the Guinness Storehouse out of the water. So the tour at the Jameson factory was guided, so we had our own lovely man guide us around. He was like a magical wizard. He was a nice, smallish, kind of grey-haired grandad Irish man who was absolutely fantastic at narrating the story and, you know, taking us through the different rooms. And we went in a room similar to the one in the Guinness Storehouse, which had various little pots to smell and things like that, except in this factory we were allowed to taste the whiskey. So we had we had a little taste of Jameson, we had a little taste of bourbon, and we had a little taste of Scotch. And, you know, we were taught how to taste it properly, which was really interesting. We were taught to sort of hold it in our mouths and let that burn disappear and really get the flavours out. We came to the conclusion afterwards that I'm not really sure what was going on with the Guinness Storehouse, because it clearly wasn't the case that tastings had to stop because of COVID, so I don't know, maybe they were just trying to cut costs or something. But anyway, after the tour was finished, it was a lovely atmosphere. We loved it there. We could have stayed all day. We stayed behind for some different cocktails. So would absolutely recommend the hot apple and cinnamon. Would also strongly recommend the chocolate cocktail. So that was whiskey with chocolate liqueur and marmalade, weirdly, and that was absolutely delicious. Then the next attraction that we visited was the Trinity College Dublin, which was home to the Book of Kells, which is a book that was written in around 800 AD. Yeah, AD. It's considered one of the oldest, most kind of magnificent looking books. I think I'm not really doing it justice with the explanation. I don't know, just Google it and you'll find out. We went because of the historical interest and because of the sort of high status that it has, and you know, if you mention Dublin, people think of that straight away. So we went to see it. Feel a little bit cheated because in the guidebook that we bought a guidebook to take with us, and in the guidebook it said the admission price was €11, which I think that's pretty fair. That's about £10, and I think, you know, it's fine. It pays for the preservation of this artefact. But we got there and it turned out it was actually €18. Basically my camera died and I had to go charge it for a while, so picking up where I left off. Yeah, just to wrap up, we visited the Book of Kells while we were there. Overall, it was good to see. There was a lot to read, and there was some really interesting information and knowledge and things, and I was glad that I went, but it's not up there for things to see, really, in Dublin. There are a lot better things that cost a lot less money. So just bear that in mind. Another attraction that we visited was the Irish Emigration Museum, which is also called Epic. I'm not really sure why, but it was really interesting, and that was, I believe, €16 entry. It's basically an underground museum, and it's made up of sort of underground rooms, and you work through them one at a time, and you just learn more about emigration from Ireland, so where people went all around the world, the reasons for them leaving. And then as part of the museum as well, there's actually sort of a hub of independent businesses that you can also visit. Now that is free to enter, so if you just want to visit that bit and you don't want to visit the exhibition, that's absolutely fine, you can visit that for free. And we went there and we visited a lovely cafe called the Bakehouse, so I would absolutely recommend that if you're there. The Emigration Museum is very interactive, so you get your own passport when you first arrive, and each part of the exhibition you go through has a little machine to stamp your passport to kind of say that you've been in that sort of part of the story, if that makes sense. There is a giant book that you can turn the pages just by kind of moving, like hovering your hand over. So many, almost too many interactive things to click on and look at and read, and honestly, you could, if you had all day to do something, you could make that an all day thing. Towards the end there is a very, very cool kind of part of the exhibit. It's decked out like an aeroplane, kind of, and you feel like you're in an aeroplane, and the story's kind of happening around you because the aeroplane windows are screens as well. So you kind of, it's really cool. I would absolutely recommend that museum. Another little fantastic find that I actually found by accident is called the Winding Stair Bookshop. It's Ireland's oldest surviving bookshop, apparently. And it was just so sweet, honestly. If you are interested in books, I would definitely give that a visit. So on to bars and restaurants. The first day we visited, we just arrived, we dropped our bags off, we needed something to eat, we were absolutely starving, so we took a walk into the city centre and we found a place called Wow Burger. Now, I've since found out that that's actually a chain. I had no idea. It's basically like a Five Guys. It's very similar in price. The fries were different, so the options were regular fries, or instead of kind of like the paprika fries or whatever Five Guys does, I can't quite remember, they did a garlic butter fries. So it was like fries coated in like garlic butter, which it doesn't sound amazing, but they were really, really nice. One of the places that we visited for food was called The Bank. This is where we visited on the last day we spent in Dublin. Me and my friend Becky actually saw it on the first day when we arrived, and we were just walking past it and it looked so nice from the outside. It's in this big grand building, and I was kind of peeping through the door a little bit and I could see like a big grand balcony and a Christmas tree and a piano, and it was really, really nice, and everything was kind of made of marble and there was like quite a few statues and it just looked so posh. So when we got back to the apartment, we tried to book for the next day and it said it was completely fully booked. When the final day came around, which was a Friday, I'd said to my friends, well, you know, let's just walk into town, let's try and find somewhere to eat for lunch, and we'll pop in and we'll see if they've got any space, and if they do, that's great, and if not, we'll find somewhere else. So we were walking past and we just popped in, and they did have space for lunch, which was great. We got there really early. We got there at like 11:30, so they had a table for us, which was fantastic. We had a couple of drinks before we ate. It was the most expensive place we ate at the whole time, but we kind of expected that, and so it was nice to go on the final day. So I had the Bank's signature cocktail, which was I think it was raspberry gin with raspberry puree, raspberry liqueur and Prosecco, I want to say. And I went for a beef and Guinness pie, so did two of my friends, and then my boyfriend went for the Sunday dinner, which was honey roast gammon. I think it was some kind of roast turkey. I'm not sure what like the flavouring was. I think it was like orange roast turkey or something. Couldn't fault it, to be honest. It was beautiful, lovely atmosphere. We had a pianist playing the grand piano while we were eating. It was just a really lovely experience. We spent a couple of hours there actually, just kind of having a few more drinks. If you can try and walk in and just chance them having a table, that's absolutely the best way to go, because trying to book was just impossible. I don't know if you're aware, because I certainly wasn't until halfway through the trip. Measures of spirit are bigger in Ireland. So yeah, a standard measure in Ireland is 35 millilitres. I had to think about that then. I nearly said centilitres, but that would be too big. 35 millilitres as opposed to 25 in England. That explained why I was feeling drunker a lot faster over there. Another place we went to, which was actually the second night that we arrived, was Musashi. A restaurant called Musashi, which was a Japanese restaurant. It was around the corner from our apartments. The restaurant itself was fine, like it had a really chilled atmosphere. It was not busy at all. I had the katsu curry, which I am not exaggerating when I say was the best katsu curry I have ever had. Like, it puts Wagamamas to shame. I got 2 chicken breasts, like not even just one. I got 2 panko breaded chicken breasts. I got a bowl of sticky rice, I got a bowl of katsu sauce, I got some lovely cooked vegetables. It was just really, really good. I think for me, probably the experience of the holiday was absolutely a toss-up between the Jameson Museum and the Quays pub. So the Quays pub is on Temple Bar. It's fairly okay priced. It's cheaper than other places that we visited. So I was drinking gin and tonic, which bear in mind is a bigger measure than we have over in England, and that was €8.50. So that wasn't too bad. I thought that was a good price compared to some of the places that we've been paying. And the gins were really nice gins. So I was going for the pricier gins on the menu. So I wasn't going for like your standard kind of like Gordon's, that kind of thing. It was Irish gins, and quite a lot of them were like craft gins or small batch or things like that. So I was going for the more expensive ones, and it was still €8.50. So I think that was a really good price. We knew that we definitely wanted an Irish stew while we were there, and we noticed that they had Irish stew on the menu, and we decided to go back for tea. I am so glad that we did, because it was just really nice. Like, I know I've said this about every single place we've eaten, but it was really nice. The food, the stew itself was like, I don't know what seasoning they used, but it was perfect. And the stew itself came with 2 really thick slices of brown bread. It was definitely kind of homemade, and it wasn't as light and airy as kind of typical bread. It was a lot more dense, and it was really good for kind of like wiping up the stew. And then I got a side of mashed potatoes with mine as well, just because I really like stew and mash. Absolutely 10 out of 10. Would absolutely recommend that if you are ever going to Dublin and you know you're around the Temple Bar area. I would definitely recommend the Quays for an evening meal. And then the experience just got even better, because after the meal, which was in the restaurant upstairs, we went down to the bar underneath us, and we got a prime spot table completely by chance. It was a great spot to be in, and there was live music on. The live music was fantastic. It was these 2 kind of old guys, one on a fiddle and one on a guitar. The number one thing that I wanted to do on the trip was to see some live music, some Irish music in an Irish pub, and you know, that's why we did it, because I wanted to do it. And I could tell my friends weren't really as up for it as I was, but when we'd sat down and we started listening to the music, and we kind of saw how excited everyone was and into it everyone was, and how good the musicians were, they really, really got into it and really started to enjoy it, and it ended up being the most memorable night and the most enjoyable night of the whole trip. So I cannot recommend the Quays enough. It's great price for your alcohol and your drinks, considering it's on Temple Bar, which is, you know, one of the more expensive streets in Dublin. If you're wanting like a complete night experience, so from going for drinks in the afternoon to then having your tea to then more drinks and some evening entertainment, that is a fantastic option. And then of course we visited the Temple Bar bar itself, which I really, really enjoyed. It was pricier than some other places, but not by much at all. You're talking about €2, €2 more expensive than some of the other places for a drink, which it's not crazy. You know, it's definitely doable, and there was live music on all through the day, and it was massive. We ended up sitting in the courtyard, sort of outside, which had heaters, so it was fine. Further down the street, they've also got a gift shop, so I'm a bit of a sucker for merchandise, so I did buy myself a hoodie. Another pub that we visited while we were there was called the Brazen Head. So allegedly, it's one of Ireland's oldest pubs. Now, when I did a bit of reading into this, it turned out it wasn't. So the Brazen Head was built as a coaching inn in 1754 on the site of a merchant's dwelling, which dated back to 1613. However, local tradition, I can't even say that word, local tradition claims the site has housed a tavern or alehouse since 1198. So there is some dispute as to whether it is Ireland's oldest pub, but they like to claim that it is. We never actually got to go inside, just because we only went for drinks, and their kind of rule was that if you are only having drinks, then you have to sit in the beer garden. The drinks were quite expensive. They were kind of similar price to the Temple Bar, and I think the pub was kind of resting on its Ireland's oldest pub status and banking on the fact that tourists would come for that reason. We went to so many nice places that I will say this one just didn't quite live up. So, you know, if you're in Dublin and you've only got limited time and, you know, you're considering the Brazen Head, I would say there are much nicer places to visit, and this is probably something that you could give a miss. On the Thursday, we actually visited Dublin Christmas Market. Now I know generally with Christmas markets, they're never as good as you think they're going to be, and you kind of get there and there's not many stalls and food is really overpriced, and it's nice and it's cute and you can get a couple of pictures for your Instagram and things like that, but they're never as good as you think, and I'd fully prepared myself for that. All of the food vans were like over €10. There was one that was selling cheesy potato cubes for €15. Entry to the Christmas market was free, but you did have to book tickets in advance, so we had a time slot that we had to kind of stick to, and I think it was a time slot of about an hour and a half, 2 hours, so it definitely gave us enough time. The market itself was very small, so it was in Dublin Castle, which isn't like a proper castle anymore. I think it must have, you know, kind of been lost, and then this kind of grand building's been built in its place, but it's not really a castle, if that makes sense. So the market itself was very small. It didn't have many stalls at all. It had a couple of kind of natural skincare stalls, a couple for candles, a couple for children's books. It had one with like handmade wooden knickknacks, which was really cute, and there was kind of like these little cockerel salt and pepper shakers that I really loved. So they were really cute. We'd kind of seen everything in 10 minutes, and yeah, if you're in Dublin at Christmas and you're stuck for time, I know the Christmas market sounds like a cute idea, but it's definitely one that you can give a miss. Like, you don't need to see that. You just don't. But thank you for watching. Of course, these were just my opinions on things that you should see and things that you could probably give a miss.